So we'll take the question that was from the last panel, and if it's relevant for our current speakers, that's great. If it's not, we'll do our best. And then we will take another question and go straight into the following panel. Is that person still here? Kazadi? Muamba? I'm lucky I actually know this person. I could name him. Thank you so much, Kazadi.
Hi, first of all, thank you for the panelists for sharing their insights. As we're speaking about frameworks, I'm keen to kind of hear your thoughts on developing frameworks such as SPVs, special purpose vehicles that sit outside political context to kind of help increase confidence and appetite to investors. So just to summarize, from your experience and from your sectors, would a framework that sits outside political context help increase investment and appetite?
Excellent question. Do any of you have any thoughts about that? Or have you stumped the panel?
You haven't. I'm happy to answer that, but I'd like to understand, when you mean outside of a political context, what do you mean there, just exactly?
Regardless of government changes or government institutions, the principal agreements that were agreed before from the private and public sectors will still remain intact.
Sure. So it's effectively like binding future governments to respect contracts, right? Look, I think anything, whether it's an SPV structure from our point of view, or having some kind of legal mechanism where these contracts are recognized, it is critical, right? Contracts are the foundation for us to make any investment, and these contracts need to be respected. So, if that's a suggestion, for investors, I think something like that would be great. Equally, the ability to have recourse outside of the country. Now, one thing the DRC has, which is very unusual for a lot of countries, and it should be commended as well, is the DRC investment code, right? So if I have an issue in the DRC, even though as a UK company, we may not have a bilateral investment treaty with the DRC, I can still seek recourse through international courts to raise an issue I have with the DRC government or any department there outside of the country. So this is something which needs to be commended. I hope it's something investors never have to use, but it is a way to help deal with these kind of issues.
We have a question here as well. Is there anyone else going to answer?
I think we'll pass it. Actually, yes. We'll have a brief comment on that. Thank you.
Oui, je voulais rajouter quelque chose aussi, la réponse pour aider à la question de notre frère.
I want to add something on the response given by my colleague here.
Je pense que je vais donner l'exemple, par exemple, du FPI, le Fonds de promotion de l'industrie.
I'm giving you the example of the investment fund.
Le fonds a été créé depuis 1989 par le président Mobutu.
The fund was created since 1989 by President Mobutu.
Il est passé, mais jusqu'aujourd'hui, le fonds continue à fonctionner normalement pour financer les projets des Congolais.
So President Mobutu is not there. Now there is another government, but the fund is still there permanently to help investments.
Il est également de comprendre qu'on a aussi une institution qu'on appelle l'ANAPI.
We have another institution called ANAPI. It's an agency for the promotion of investment in the country.
Qui accompagne les investisseurs qui arrivent et il n'y a aucun problème, même si le gouvernement passe, mais les autres restent.
They provide the accompaniment and all the administrative processes for investors. So it was there before the actual government, and the guarantee is there that it will stay even if the government changes. So these are the permanent structures which go beyond the political changes permanently to guarantee that investments can continue no matter the changing government. So these are permanent structures which have been there and which will stay no matter the changes in the government.
Au jour d'aujourd'hui, nous n'avons plus de tracasseries concernant la création, par exemple, des sociétés, tout ça, nous avons les guichets uniques qui fonctionnent correctement pour faciliter justement les investisseurs qui arrivent et pour pouvoir
And
créer...
we have introduced reforms, so if you want to create a new company or you go there for something, we have what we call guichet unique. So first point of contact, you just go there and straightforward, they start helping you in the process.
Et pour le conflit, grâce à la volonté politique du président, nous avons créé aussi une cellule de climat des affaires qui, normalement, règle les problèmes des différents entre les contrats de l'État et autres. Donc, au jour d'aujourd'hui, nous n'avons plus de tracasseries. Tout est souple pour la République.
And there are also structures to improve the climate for businesses. So no matter what people think about the DRC on the war or insecurity, but we are trying to introduce reforms to improve the business environment, to make it safe. That's what we call climat des affaires. So you can feel safe to come and help is there. People can still accompany you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we see that there is political financial continuity, and that's something that every country will struggle with as administrations change. And it's very reassuring to hear what the DRC has done and been able to do for decades. So that's very encouraging, and we'll love to see that expand. Thank you so much. We have one question in the back here, and then we'll move on to panel 3. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Matuki. I just want to ask, in terms of the framework that you're creating, how are you ensuring that it's going to be beneficial for Congolese people? And I've heard everyone speak about upscaling them. At the moment, if they're not upskilled to understand what is happening, how are you creating a framework that's going to be beneficial to them in order for them to know what kind of contract they're signing and how do they benefit from these contracts?
Who is this question addressed to?
Anyone in the panel? Anyone in the panel?
Okay. Okay. So if anyone has any thoughts about how the frameworks that are being constructed can benefit civilians, civil society, Congolese public, or is this more government level and a business level for your perspective?
I'm sure that's a government level question.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you have, peut-être Monsieur Kinouani a quelque chose à dire concernant ça?
Je pense que je n'ai pas bien saisi la question de...
Je pense qu'on parler de la société civile. Les citoyens congolais, comment ils vont apprendre, comprendre comment on peut engager dans des différentes structures d'investissement, de débloquer des fonds pour l'investissement, les entrepreneurs, etc. Parce qu'on parle des choses de très haut niveau. Vos partenaires sur le panel, ils viennent de l'industrie. I'm just translating the question. Qui vient de l'industrie, c'est un niveau international de business, quoi. Mais les citoyens congolais, comment ils peuvent accéder à ce type de financement dont vous mettez en place?
Oui. Nous faisons normalement des campagnes de vulgarisation dans les chaînes de télévision, dans les médias.
We do awareness campaigns through the media or face-to-face.
Pour justement donner l'information à notre population, de venir, par exemple, solliciter des prêts au niveau du FPI et l'accompagnement, par exemple, pour la création des entreprises.
So the awareness is based on also educating people, the ordinary people, the community, inviting them to get in touch with the investment fund, and we build their capacity to start businesses and what is required, and we accompany them to the point where they get to the actual finances for the project.
Par exemple, pour les femmes, nous les facilitons la tâche au lieu de payer, de rembourser 6% comme les hommes. Les femmes remboursent que 4%.
And we are very, very, very keen on helping women to build their financial capacity to start businesses. And on the lending scheme, we give them these facilities, or we being a bit soft with them on the interest rate when they have to reimburse the funds that they are borrowing. We charge them less interest so that they are able to develop.
Et les 4% va également pour les jeunes.
And actually it's 4% of interest, and then the same 4% apply for the youth.
Et le président a aussi créé le FOGEC, donc un fonds qui accompagne aussi la jeunesse donc dans tout ce qui est entrepreneuriat.
The presidency have also created another fund just to help the entrepreneurship side for the youth. So we are creating young entrepreneurs, and then with a specific fund for the youth.
Donc aujourd'hui, le Congo n'a plus d'ambiguïté dans tous les domaines grâce à la vision éclairée de son Excellence Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo.
So now, with the vision, the new vision of the president, we are not being contradictory for ourselves. So we're doing clear things to invest for everybody, the youth, the women, and the overall population.
Ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que le Congo, plus de 30 ans, avait un problème de leadership responsable.
And what we need you to understand is that for more than 30 years, Congo has gone through a leadership crisis, a problem of leadership.
Le Congo n'existait presque plus sur la scène internationale.
There was no Congo in the international community level.
Et grâce aujourd'hui à la diplomatie agissante de son Excellence, le Congo est retrouvé.
And now, because of the very proactive diplomacy of today, Congo is back on the international scene.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So now we've answered that excellent question, and we really appreciate the question you brought, because it allowed us to learn about differential interest rates, so 6% for men who are seeking funds from the FPI, 4% for women and young people, specific funds for youth. So we're looking at human capital development, we're looking at gender parity, we're looking at encouraging women entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship of young people, and that's very promising. So thank you so much. I think we will pass on to our next panel, but let's give a round of applause to our panelists.
There was...
We are sensitive of time here, and we respect all of your time, and we also have ambassadors and dignitaries in the room, so we do have to keep to time out of respect for everyone in the room. So thank you so much. Let's have a quick photo opportunity on the ground level, and we'll pass on to our next panel, please. Directly into the next panel, please. So let me just check and see if everyone is here in the room. We have His Excellency, the Ambassador, DRC in the Congo. We are the DRC in the United Kingdom. His Excellency, Ambassador Ngokwe. We have also Jemima Kayumbi. Are you here, Jemima? She is not here, unfortunately. So we will have a small panel discussion. Aum Thacker, Excellent, wonderful. So I will then, in this case, I will join you. Let's start with introducing His Excellency Ambassador Ngokwe. We are very honored for the second day to be graced with his presence. He continues as the DRC ambassador to the UK, assuring a very smooth and a very robust relationship between the United Kingdom and the Democratic Republic of Congo. He engages expertly on energy and mineral strategy, bilateral cooperation, and the development of sustainable and responsible industry projects and investment in the DRC. We are very honored to welcome His Excellency to the stage. Please, Your Excellency Ambassador Ngokwe. Next, Jemima unfortunately isn't able to join us, but we will be joined by Thacker, who is an investor, an investment specialist from TLG Capital. He is, works for a London-based private credit firm focused on African markets with expertise in deal structuring and frontier investments. So we're going to have a nice, intimate discussion between a diplomatic representative and a business representative. If you'd like to join us, Mr. Thacker, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's see here. Actually, I think I'm okay up here. So this particular panel, we can hear from both of you on questions of transaction structuring. We're looking also at private-public sector partnerships. We are looking at models and risk mitigation mechanisms. Now, that's my big passion, is risk mitigation, because I'm concerned about the people of the DRC. There have been challenges politically in the past with foreign investment in the form of the Belgians, right? So we've had some very serious things happening in the history of Congo, and it is such a brilliant country with so many civilizations, not just one civilization. It's a multitude of cultures, civilizations, histories of different people, different languages, and a biodiversity which is unparalleled, right? After the Amazon forest, the Amazon rainforest, the Congo Basin is the second set of lungs of the planet. So we are talking about oxygen, we're talking about biodiversity, we're talking about species that are endangered. And a lot of the industries that we're talking about here have the capacity to disturb these different biodiversity rare scenes. And so we're looking also at environmental risk mitigation, human risk mitigation. Jacqueline's panel talked about human rights as well. So in terms of investing, generating money, generating finance, and then how do we protect and invest at the same time? Now, I'm not saying both of you should address those questions equally because you're coming from different sectors, but I want all of the business people in the room to keep that in mind, is how do we ensure that Congo, the beauty, the nature, the biodiversity also remains safe to the extent it can during all of this amazing transformation in industry. So I'd like to give the floor to Ambassador Ngokwe, looking at transaction structuring, public-private sector partnerships, and risk mitigation. What are your perspectives on this, Your Excellency?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. I think we are already in the afternoon. Yes. Yesterday at the opening ceremony, I think all of the speakers insisted on the need to move from discourses to action. And the discussion we are going to have now is actually in line with what was said yesterday. Because the question we are going to address is, how can we make sure to transform, how can we put in place transactions that can transform the huge DRC potential into financed and well-executed projects for the benefit of the population and, of course, of investors as well. So I just want to make 4 points to give more time for discussion. The first one is to talk a little bit about the general environment, the economic environment. And there I would like to emphasize 2 points. The first one, let's not forget that DRC is experiencing a sustained growth of around 6%. And this is due, first of all, to our position in critical minerals, it is due to increased demands, but it is also due to the gradual macroeconomic stabilization. Also, the second point I want to mention with the general environment, economic environment, is that signals from the investors are increasingly positive, as indicated, for example, in the positive trend of the Moody's ratings. And we can see more macroeconomic stabilization and discipline. We can see improvement in the regulatory and legal frameworks, and we can see improved economic governance. So this is what makes the difference. So that was my first point in terms of general economic environment. My second point has to do with the PPPs. DRC has a good experience in that. We all know about the INGA project, but now we have 3 other major projects. The Lobito corridor, going from Kolwezi to Lubumbashi to Southern Africa. We also have the corridor going from Kinshasa to Banana to the Atlantic Ocean. And we have also the corridor going from the center towards East Africa. So all are major projects which involve PPPs. Because we have learned that public-private partnerships can actually yield greater benefits. So this is the second point I wanted to make. The third point I wanted to make has to do with the narrative about DRC. We all know that for too long, the narrative about DRC was about risk, security risk, fiscal risk, political risk, operational and logistical risk, etc., etc. My message to you today is that that narrative is incomplete and, more importantly, outdated, because things have changed thanks to the political will of reforms which have been made. What is true today is that the DRC is no longer a high-risk market. On the contrary, it has become a very good investment destination. So the risk today is not investing in DRC. The risk is actually missing the opportunity to invest now. That's the real risk. So let's work together to make sure that we can mitigate those risks, because we ourselves in the country, we are aware of that. I remember very well that 6 weeks ago, the president himself, during the Council of Ministers, raised the question of the climat des affaires, how we can do much better. So we are working on that. And we count on those who are already in the DRC to actually be our economic ambassadors, to not only to talk about the risks, but to talk also about the effort the government is making to mitigate those risks. My last point has to do with the diaspora. In all of this we are trying to do, in all of the transformation we are seeking, the diaspora has a critical role for 3 main reasons. First of all, they have a role in finance. We all know that they have the remittances and even investment. Second of all, they have a technical role because of their expertise in law, in engineering, in medicine, in services. And last, they have a role as a bridge between the two ecosystems, because they know the two culture, they know the two system, and they have been, most of them, trained here. So this is why I always insist that any investor wanting to have success in DRC should rely on the Congolese diaspora living here, because the expertise is there and the cultural knowledge is there. So those are the 4 points I wanted to make as an introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I have a bit of a tickle in my throat. I'm going to step away for a moment just so I can clear my breath. And Christelle has very kindly offered to step in just for a second to facilitate Alam's discussion so I don't continue coughing on stage here. So just for a moment, I'll pass it over to Christelle, and then I'll be back in a few minutes. Excuse me.
Thank you, and I hope you're enjoying today's offerings. I would just like to continue on I would like to hand over the opportunity for Mr. Thacker, if you can kindly add your perspective on this discussion. Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for hosting us. Thank you to Mr. Bosco and to the delegation that came as well. My name is Orm Thacker. I work with a fund called TLG Capital. We deploy private credit into corporates across sub-Saharan Africa. We've been doing so since about 2009, and our founding partners came from sort of structuring backgrounds at Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, etc. In the last 10 months, we've done more than 10 transactions, deployed more than $80 million into Guinea-Conakry, Tanzania, Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, etc. I think perhaps I want to begin with the point that His Excellency raised on risk and risk perception. There's a paper that we often cite to our investors. We have more than 120 investors, including the IFC World Bank, the Swedish government, Norwegian government, but also family offices in Singapore, Dubai, New York, Monaco, who are often investing into Africa for the first time. And one of the big pages we always show them is a University of Michigan paper that says that there's this unexplained risk premium for African issuers that stands at around 2.7%, that is not explained by fundamentals, credit ratings, etc. You look at the banking sector. We had actually invited a number of the banks, Royal Bank, BGFI, etc. today. Unfortunately, they were also struggling with their visas, which is something I hope we can address, because it doesn't help the risk perception if these people cannot be in the room. You look at the Nigerian banking sector, the cash reserve ratio there is 55%. So you're saying that half of the balance sheet of the deposits that you raise are sitting in cash with the central bank, but this is still a B- credit rating where you must issue at 11%. It does not make sense. And so I think we see that there are many examples across the continent of mispriced risk. I would congratulate the DRC on their recent issuance in Paris last week with Rothschild, Citi, Royal Bank. I think that's a really positive step, building on the momentum of the recent increases on the sovereign level. And that provides a benchmark for pricing. But as far as we are concerned, the greatest opportunities are to come in when capital is not there. And so 2 or 3 months ago, we did a transaction in Conakry on the back of the Rio Tinto Simandou project. We're hoping to do similar things in Congo. But the most important thing to consider when it comes to credit markets, and I think this gentleman from DINS, we probably have a mutual client or two where UKEF have funded some of these corporates. This is not a zero-sum game. The banks can fund the working capital for the guys in Ivanhoe's value chain in Congo. UKEF can provide the medium-term tail, and we can come in with long-term patient capital that can be structured more like mezzanine and so on. And I think the most important thing, if we're talking about deepening capital markets, is partnerships. Because if you look at private credit in Europe or the US, etc., Apollo is working with Citi, not against them, right? You look at Arini in London, they're working with Lazard and BNP Paribas, not against them. And so every single loan that we do is originated with, guaranteed by, or supported with the balance sheet of a financial institution in the country. And I think it's really about seeing opportunities from that perspective, as opposed to treating individual corporates as, you must come to London, you must present your investment memorandum, you must raise money, because it's a really good way, I think, to waste time and have a protracted process. And on the point, in the spirit of partnership, it must be the local financial institutions, in my view, that should catalyze and galvanize international capital, because that is the top, and that's how you then get local issuers to come to market. So we're all for partnership. Everything that we do is with a local bank or a local FI. We really want to scale that up. And I think the next step is really to get some of these banks in the room to be part of that conversation.
Thank you so much for your perspective. I actually had a question for yourself. How do you typically structure investment in frontier markets to balance sponsor control with investor protections?
Thank you, and great question. I'll give some examples. So, as I say, in the last 10 months, we've done 10 different transactions, and each one has its own unique angle. So, what do they all have in common? Well, we've worked with a local bank and with a local central bank. But what are we helping them with? Well, it depends. In some countries like Tanzania, there are MPLs, and banks want to refinance them or to get them off their balance sheets. In some markets like Guinea-Conakry, there are issues with single obligor limits. You cannot fund more than a $20 million deal. Even the biggest bank there, EcoBank, is constrained to do more than that. So how do you support them? In Nigeria, you were looking at the sector was being capitalized. So the central bank said you must increase capital requirements, and you want to help banks capitalize accordingly. In Ghana and Zambia, which are obviously emerging from sovereign default a few years ago, it's about making sure that there's a supply of dollars, because there might not be long-term dollars. Even if you look at the biggest bank in Congo, I mean, Raw Bank, which has more than $6 billion in assets, if you were to look at where their dollars come from, there'll be mainly demand deposits in short term. There will not be many people placing 3, 5, 7-year funds with these banks. And therefore, where do you expect the long-term capital for companies to come from? Because the banks don't even have them themselves. And so the way that we structure is really trying to listen them more than we talk. So we go to the central bank, we go to the banks, we ask them what's constraining them, where they can deploy funds if they had the opportunity to do so. And then I think to the point that Madame made earlier on supporting with ESG, I mean, our investors, IFC, Swedfund, Norfund, they are here to support. We did a project in Djibouti for telecoms. It's how do you clear land, how do you make sure the community is engaged, how do you do all of these things? And so I really think it's about getting as many people together as possible, and I really appreciate His Excellency's comments on this topic, because no one should be taking the Air France flight alone to go in and try to sort out their own meetings on LinkedIn or whatever. You must do so in partnership with local banks or with the government or so on, and that's the only way I think this risk perception problem gets addressed.
Thank you very much. And I actually have a personal question for His Excellency. Your Excellency, you've been, since your tenure here in the UK, you have been very active within the community, the Congolese community, as well as bridging the gap between the DRC and the UK. And this question comes from a diaspora perspective, as we do have many Congolese diaspora here who do want to go back home and invest, but who lack capital, for instance. How are you working with the UK government, and perhaps what is the plan for the DRC government to support Congolese that want to go and set up business in the DRC?
Yes, you said that I have been engaging a lot with the diaspora. Let me clarify that I have not done that alone. I did it with the team at the embassy. And second, I was saying that I didn't do that alone. I was doing it with the rest of the team at the embassy. And not only we are doing it with the embassy, but also with the goodwill and the expertise which exists in our diaspora. Because we even have Congolese chambers of commerce here. We have association of engineers. We have an association of Congolese professionals. We have an association of dentists and doctors, Congolese dentists and doctors. So how can we not work with such talent and such expertise? This is why you heard me here insisting that all investors must rely and tap on those talents, because they are there. And with the government in DRC, we also insist on that point, which is that one of the complaints we hear very often from our diaspora here is that when they try to go back, they see that there are many barriers. Some of them institutional, some of them maybe having to do with petty jealousy of that you are very happy there, why do you come here to take the little we have? So we know that there is that problem as well. So how is the government trying to tackle it? 4 or 5, I think it was 6 months ago, there was actually a Council of Ministers meeting where a few decisions were made. First of all, they decided that they are going to try to make the guichet unique more operational. And they even said that they want to have a special one for the diaspora. They are going to have a special guichet for the diaspora, so that nobody will tell you, why are you coming to, what do you want to come here? You are already happy there. So this is a problem we are tackling. The second thing is that the government has made the decision to create a bank for the diaspora and to create a special fund for the diaspora. They also want to create a special identity card for all of the diaspora. So this is a very serious issue, and they are taking it very seriously. And we know that things take time. I am sure that a few years from now, we'll be looking at this problem as really a very past problem. It is work in progress, and I'm happy to say that we are progressing.
Thank you so much for those assurances. And on that wonderful note, just wanted to say thank you for this session and for adding value to our audience. We're going to move on to, I believe it's lunchtime, for us to have a moment. Oh, I'll pass you over to my colleague Madeline, who will make the final announcements. Thank you. Thank you.
So, big round of applause to Christelle for jumping in. Thank you for your patience. I'm getting over some allergies. So, really wonderful discussion. I was listening from the other side of the door, as you could probably tell. I think before we have lunch, again, thank you so much to both of you for your contribution. Thank you for the excellent questions. We don't have time for audience questions. Hopefully you can have a moment with them at another point in time. But I think Jean Bosco wanted to make an announcement before we pass on to lunch. And after lunch, we will continue. Christelle is chairing a panel, so is Trésor Chauveau. So we have some very exciting discussions coming up after lunch. But first, I'd like to get Jean Bosco here to make a closing discussion.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So now we're going for lunch. So those who have paid the VIP ticket because we couldn't identify, you can follow us to the VIP room, the other side on the left. And apart from it, so the floor is for you. Then have a nice lunch. Thank you very much.
So let's return in 45 minutes, and we look forward to seeing you after the lunch break. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You probably think Squarespace is just for websites, but you can also get a domain from Squarespace. Something like topfootballcamp.com for your football camp, rugbyringers.com for your rugby league, or weirdburpeecult.com for your weird burpee cult. Whatever your dream, a Squarespace domain and website is how you go from 0 to 1, all in one place. Get yours before it's gone with offer code MAKEITREAL for 10% off your domain or website. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, check 1, 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, we will be recommencing shortly. Nous allons recommencer bientôt. Vous êtes priés de prendre vos sièges, vos places. You're invited to take your seats. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will be commencing shortly. Vous êtes invités de prendre votre place. Nous allons recommencer bientôt. Merci. messieurs, vous êtes priés de prendre votre place. Ladies and gentlemen, you're invited to take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will be starting shortly. Mesdames et messieurs, vous êtes priés de prendre votre place. Nous allons recommencer bientôt. Monsieur Chauveau, c'est à vous. C'est votre panel. We are glad you enjoyed the lunch break. We would like to continue with the conference so that we can get out of here at the end of the day after our beautiful reception and you can enjoy the wonderful London tube strike weather. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, it gives me great pleasure to continue our event. We're moving swiftly along to panel discussion number 4, which will require you to sit down and listen, or not. but that will be a very different conference as no one is listening. So, our next panel on mining and security reform, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Thank you very much. We are delighted to have you back. And it's actually very encouraging that you want to keep talking to each other. That's a good thing. It's wonderful. It's very promising. So thank you so much for all of you for your continued attention and dedication and investment, personal investment, business investment, for being here. We're very delighted and we're very honored. So our next panel discussion on mining and security reform, very important issues. I have the pleasure of knowing our next chairperson for over 16 years. We met at Chatham House during a lecture of former Liberian President Ellen Sirleaf Johnson. So Trésor and I go back 16 years, and it's really delightful for me to be able to introduce him on his own panel. So it's funny how life evolves. So Trésor Chauveau is the founder and CEO of Temple Fortune Capital. He has 15 years of experience facilitating global investments. I had nothing to do with that, so I won't take credit for that. He is in charge of the management and strategic direction of the company. He advises global banks, companies, and investors in mining, oil, gas, energy, infrastructure, as well as African governments. Trésor owns mining exploration projects in friendly and complex African environments. We also benefit from Trésor's multilingual background, English, French, and likely other languages. He is an international speaker with media appearances on the BBC, African Mining, Al Jazeera, and he also sits on the advisory board for the Critical Minerals Fund. Now I will hand you over to our very competent next chairperson, Trésor Chauveau. Please join us. I will pass the baton to Trésor, who will introduce his own panelists. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Madeleine, thank you. So 15, 16 years after working with you, it's a pleasure. So I've been asked to chair very interesting topics which is related to mining and security. And I'm going to call, first of all protocol due, Mr. William Kapuku, who's an advisor of the cabinet of the president in relation to security. So he touches also the mining field. I think he was in the Situation Room, I can CNN. Interview room. So, yeah. So in the meantime, I'm going to try to entertain the audience. My background is I've studied politics at SOAS, nothing to do with mining. But I've always been very interested in natural resources. So I ended up with a great dreams to think that I would change the world into this field. That's why I ended up into mining and oil and gas. And I also, as Madeleine said, own an exploration project. So we'll go into that. So here is William. William Kapuku works at the Office of President Tshisekedi, the security desk. I'm going to call Mark Christie, if Mark Christie here. Mayfair Global Solutions. Welcome, Mark. I've actually went onto the website, and you're doing great stuff, so congratulations. Thank you. So Mark is Mayfair Global Solution. It's a mining company. And I'm going to call Jemima Kayumbi as our next speaker or panelist. Jemima works in private equity. She's a banker. And I think that's it. Because the program has slightly changed because some people did not attend because of visa issues. I think that's it. All right. Can we put a round of applause for this group? And in the next 20 minutes or so, we are going to be touching on the mining issues and security issues. We have someone who has worked, Jemima, who is working into capital finance. So we'll touch on that. We have Mark, who's actually running an exploration project, which is the real world of mining. And we'll also touch on the security, because in Africa, security is a key issue, especially in the DRC. Without security, the mining cannot operate. So I'll start with you, William, because security is key. Because any investor here or anybody who would like to go and invest in DRC has to make sure that there's a return on investment, and that also they are safe themselves and the operation team. So recently, we've seen that the US and the DRC has signed an agreement which touches on security, and President Trump has pushed American companies who are now investing in the DRC. In your opinion, and because you worked into that as well and into these reforms, could you say something on that? But before that, I would like you to briefly introduce yourself. I didn't do it because I like the people to introduce themselves first, because they know what they will say or not. So if you can briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more on the improvement of security on the ground and with relation to the DRC and US agreement.
Thank you very much, Trésor. Good afternoon to everyone. As Trésor introduced me by my name is William Kapuku Bwabwa. I am from the DRC, and I lived also in the UK, where I was working for the Metropolitan Police Scotland Yard, and I was in Counter-Terrorism Command, and Mark here used to be my former boss, and Jerry over there as well. So it is a pleasure for me to be here with you, and I thank you. I thank the organizer as well. So let me first of all pay a well-deserved tribute to my president, Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, for his vision and determination to bring peace in the DRC. And he's the one that took us to the USA to sign the deal. And we are on the right path, and I believe that the result will come soon. So after here, the president did call me to the DRC, where my first role was in the first government. I was an advisor in charge of policing and the reform of the police at the Ministry of Interior Affairs. And from there, he nominated me by decree, presidential decree, as the head of PDDRCS. PDDRCS is a program of disarmament, demobilization, reinsertion, and stabilization that I dealt with armed group going to the bushes and try to disarm them and also integrate them in the society. So after a year, I was nominated again. Now I'm his advisor in charge of operations concerning every security matters. So I work on what we call Great Lake, a desk Great Lake. So I was here in the Met working on the Africa desk. Now in my country, I work on a Great Lake desk. So my role is to inform and to advise the president on any matter related to security, protection of environment, economic development, and also surveillance of borders. So I'll get involved in the reform of the police as my background as well. So I deal also with any issues directly or indirectly concerning the east of the DRC. As you know that our country has been illegally aggressed by Rwanda, the regime in Rwanda, and they are looting our minerals and they occupy our territories. So with the diplomacy of the president, we are all fighting to get back our land. So when it comes to the deal to the security, as you know, there is no development without security. So also, no nation can prosper, no economy can grow if the authority of the state is contested or is absent. So we play the role in security is because security ensures development. So with the USA, and not only the USA, that's the reason why we are here, because we want also the UK to come forward. As you know that America and the UK, they are allies. And we want that culture also to come to the DRC because the issue in the DRC is not the lack of minerals, but it's a weak governance, especially in security. So with the mining sectors, and also there are sectors like agriculture as well, we want a strong security, strong police that can uphold the law and can also secure the population and their goods, including the mining sectors and other sectors. So that's why we focus a lot on security. Even the deal with the American is about security as well. There is a security sector there that we need to go for what we call the reform of the security sector, so which involve the police, the army, and also the intelligence body as well. But as many of you, you know how the police operate in the DRC. The police is there, the reforms are there, but we need to put them in practice now. We need also to focus a lot on the la police de mine. It doesn't exist here, but it's a police that look after mining sectors. There are also many armed groups, because I was dealing with them, I'm still dealing with them. Many armed groups are on the mining sectors.
Can you say exactly where? Because DRC is very broad.
I mean, especially in the East. Many armed groups, local or foreign armed groups, are based on the mining sectors.
In the eastern part?
In the East, because I had to go to Ituri. I've done all the East. I mean, Ituri, North Kivu, I went to Beni, to Bunia, Mambasa, all those areas up to Uvira. That's my sector that I was dealing with. But you found out there are so many armed groups. And where there are armed groups, there is a total absence of the security sector, the police. Then we need to restore the authority of the state by deploying more officers, more police officers in those areas to establish the public order. Then you'll find out that in the mining sectors...
Sorry, William, I would like to stop there. We'll come back to it,
no problem.
Because I've got a few questions and issues, because we have a group of investors here, given the DRC. So if you just can pause there, I'm going to jump into Mark.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mark, briefly introduce yourself, and if you can just touch on the fact that we are looking at a new tendencies where former security personnel are now moving into oil and gas and mining. He started in Otello. Virtuous Capital Minerals in the DRC just bought Chemaf. They are former CIA and you are former Met. And can you just tell us a little bit why this tendency is happening, and how did you connect the dots to end up into the mining sector?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Mac Chishti. I'm a former police officer. Worked with William in the Met. I've got 32 years service. I was awarded the Queen's Police Medal in 2011 for distinguished service, and I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you very much for the interesting question. So I think what you need to do is, before we jump into looking at what capabilities we require for any security operation, we need to first of all understand the problem. And you know, there's lots of models around the world that do it well, including the United Kingdom, where the United Kingdom's national annual threat assessment tells you where your problems are, both current, but also includes new and emerging crime types, especially cyber-enabled and technology crime. Now, when you apply this thinking overseas, and I've worked in the past in Africa and in Asia, you know, the system is not different. You understand the problem, and then you deploy the right solution. A really good solution, or a really good method that I learned, actually from North Pakistan, when a school was attacked in which 182 school children were slaughtered by terrorists, is the Pakistani army moved in. And it's a similar formula we're using here now, where you go in, you take, you hold, you develop, and then you return. So where you've got areas of severe heightened tension, risk, and threat, the first thing to do is take the ground and then hold it, make it become yours, apply new norms and regulations there. So by developing it, it now becomes safe. Return it so it returns back to normality. So before you can even get to that stage, you have to have a very strong law enforcement institution, which also includes justice and the courts. It also includes a very strong penal code. And, you know, policing is dependent upon standards. You know, in 1829, the UK policing was set on a number of principles, and those still are very key today, and they'll apply to Africa as they do in London, I'm sure they would. So first of all, the officers, to get legitimacy from the people they're policing. You know, we say the police are the people and the people are the police here, and I think that matters everywhere. Number two, policing is done by consent and the will of the people. They enable you and us to use powers, to have powers used against us, provided they're proportionate, necessary, most important, accountable. And then you've got to have the right capabilities. So everything is important, from a uniformed officer in a local community, in a local village, all the way through to a very sharp kidnap and extortion unit who are probably working alongside a firearms support team to get rid of your most extreme threats. So this needs to be modeled, it needs to be ingrained, but it needs to be set alongside civil society, because civil society have an expectation of being protected by their country. Okay? Normality should look like going to work, going to school, going to your relatives without fear of threat, risk, and harm. And that's where we want to get to, because I'll just finish on this because I'm taking time. It's not enough to make somewhere safe. People have to not only be safe, but they have to feel safe, and people have to talk about safety in a way that exudes markets. So that attracts investment. So when people think about country A lot of people's notions or views are formed upon what's in the news. And I'll give you an example. A few years ago,
Can you see if the example maybe will come with the questions? Okay. It was just to introduce. So we're going to come back quickly on questions. So our next panelist is Jemima Kayumbi. She's from the DRC, but she's based here. She works in private equity. So Jemima, can you lead us through into, because without capital, mining is very capital intensive. Even if you have to do anything in security to stabilize, you need capital. Can you run us through what you think of a country like the DRC, how capital can be deployed, and can you just run us through capital and mining?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jemima Kayumbi. Like you rightfully presented, I am a private investor also, and I also work for one of the largest firms in the UK, which is HSBC. We focused on investing on businesses, whether it's a larger scale or a smaller scale. Yeah, that's pretty much me in that aspect. And besides that, in terms of capital in the DRC, capital can be easily obtained. It all basically focuses on the information that the bank or whoever company is in need of. Most of the time, one of the struggles that I see when I have companies who approach me who are in need of investment is they don't really provide all the required information to reach a certain standard to obtain investment. And that sometimes can prove quite difficult for us to actually invest on any business, especially in the DRC. There's potentials, I would say. I was in DRC myself last year in DRC Mining Week, and I had a couple of companies who approached me, but we seem to have a problem whenever we ask them for further information, it seems to be a problem. That's when we get stuck. We can sit there and discuss and come up with an overall idea as to what we can try and do in terms of investment. But when you want to take it further, that's where the problem starts.
Would you say that the capital, the UK capital in the DRC follows more of the established companies rather than, you know, the local mining companies that are trying to scale up?
But they have a system which they've put in place, which we completely understand. But if you're looking for funding, there's certain requirement that's needed. And when we request for that, that's where the problem starts.
All right.
And I think maybe that's somewhere where we can try and work on and trying to improve on.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to open up the floor for a few questions quickly because we are running out of time. But before I open up the question, I want to come back to William because we are talking to an audience of business people and who are looking to invest into the DRC. We hear a lot of stuff. DRC is over 2 million square kilometers, and it's important for some of the people here to understand that there are security issues on the eastern part, but will the other side of DRC where it's safer, is there any opportunities that if anyone here invests, that they will be guaranteed of security and in return?
Well, thank you very much for your question. And as the ambassador said before, Your Excellency, that there are some institutions like ANAPI, FPI, with Excellence Kinwani, and there are also DGDA and other institutions that can guarantee your investment. On security-wise, although there is this aggression in the east, but the police is reforming as well. And the police also and all other security, the intelligence services are working. And investors who are there, I don't think that there are so many complaints from them about security. But there are some isolated cases that is happening, like in any other countries, but we are improving on security. That's why we need also the assistance or the support of the UK security industry to come and improve our security, because we believe that myself, with the experience that I've got in the Met, we are the UK police is the first police in the world because policing was created here.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a couple of questions. Madeleine, how many should we? 2 or 3 questions, so I'll let you pick up. There must be a lady and a gentleman and another lady. Today, I'm discriminating on guys because we are highly paid, we are the greater numbers. Today, say it's women first. Okay. Someone, a gentleman here.
So we have a question here, and then we'll come back to you. We're privileging people who haven't yet asked questions, so we can get a bit more coverage.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask my question. So I wondered, in high insecurity mining environments across Eastern DRC, health infrastructure is often the first casualty of instability. So supply chains collapse, facilities close, data stops flowing entirely. As we talk about responsible resource development and safer operating environments, how are mining operators and public institutions thinking about health system resilience as a component of your security reform? So not just physical security, but also infrastructure that keeps communities functional when unrest disrupts in your mining areas.
Who's answering? Mark, William?
Well, I can just say something about that. There is what we call in the DRC, what do you call it in English? I'm looking for the word. Social corporate responsibility. Yeah. So according to our law in the DRC, every institution has got obligation to make better the life of the communities. So in the mining sectors is there as well. I have been in Kolwezi and Likasi and other places where the mining cities, and you'll find that there are roads that have been built in the villages and schools as well, and there are also other projects, community projects that have been supported by the mining sectors. So hospitals as well have been built, and they look after the community. So investing in the mining sector also means improving the life of the communities and the local people as well.
Thank you.
That is, it's already in the DRC, but it needs improvement.
Thank you very much. Second question.
Excellent.
Thank you for the work. My question is, the FCDO advises against travel to DRC. And I wanted to know, you as experts of security, how can you support like of giving more advice for investors to going more? Because when they think this, it's difficult for them with their insurance and every other things that they can be doing there. So do you think like this statement is likely to go, or you just be sustaining for advising against traveling to Congo?
Well, I can say that there are also some political issues that are involved whenever any country in the world has got the obligation of protecting their citizen. So when FCDO, we used to call it FCO, the FCDO now, puts some advices, I don't know, they do their own assessment. I cannot judge them on their own assessment. But me as a security man and living in the DRC and living here and going everywhere in DRC, you'll find out that other places that the FCDO don't want people to go there, but you'll find people are there. I mean, you'll find Europeans are there, the Americans are there, and they don't even look at it, to be honest with you. But what I can say is it's their own assessment, but the DRC is open. If we've got a powerful country like America signing a deal with us and coming to the DRC, then others can follow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Security. Thank you.
So in a general sense, there are security issues here and there, but this is an assessment from the UK, and because probably they're thinking about if there's an issue, how they can deploy people to help their people, but life is going on. Next question and final question. We got 2 ladies and 1 gentleman finally. So we.
This is for you, sir.
Very quickly, please.
Yeah, so it's going to be simple. It's just about mining. So I've realized we've got a lot of things like mining and resources, especially natural resources in Congo. But in terms of educations or anything promoting that in schools, it's very low. So they tend to study things like Latin philo or things like anything like that. What do you guys do? Sorry. What is it that you guys do in terms of promoting this to schools and staff and infrastructure for like students and kids to start, because youth literally are the next generation kind of thing. So it seems that we don't have much people in terms of mining or minerals in terms of that effect, really, yeah.
I'll let Mark and Jemima to say something on that because they,
Yeah, I think there are actually companies in the DRC who are actually working towards implementing the educational side of things. I can give an example of a company like TFM. They are actually built one of the biggest schools in Fungurume, trying to train all the youth, all the children in the industry. There's still a lot that needs to be done, but I think there's actually companies in the DRC who are in the mining sector who are actually implementing the educational side of things. But like I said, there still needs to be more that needs to be done. So
thank you very much. We're at the end of our session. Madeleine, at least I did my best. So the panelists are here. You could follow up with questions after. And I'm going to thank you. Maybe we're going to go forward for the photo. And then the program will carry on. Thank you.
So you see there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much interest, there's so many questions from this audience that we could spend a whole week on this. But unfortunately, we don't have a week today. But I would encourage you all to connect with each other, take your contact details, exchange business cards, LinkedIn, emails, mobile numbers, WhatsApp, etc., Telegram, whatever system you're on. Please do continue these conversations because there's so much enthusiasm and interest. Don't let it end here. So I'm really delighted to announce our next panel. We can change the imagery. Thank you so much. So now we're looking at the Congolese diaspora. We are so honored that you are here with us today. You are bridging these continents. You are bridging past and present. You're bridging generations. And this is really wonderful that we can count on your presence here and your leadership in the diaspora, looking towards the DRC looking towards the diaspora. So this is a very exciting panel and excellent to close out today's event. We're looking at the diaspora's role in private and public partnerships. And we have the pleasure of Christelle Tulia joining us, who rescued me earlier when I had an allergy attack. Christelle is a 2-time award-winning entrepreneur and cultural and policy strategist specializing in UK-DRC relations. She is a co-founder of Congolese and fabulous Kayana Raps, and her work focuses on leveraging culture, diaspora engagement, and strategic partnerships to drive economic development and global influence. With experience spanning entrepreneurship, diplomacy, research, she has advised on cultural diplomacy initiatives and contributed to international projects that position the DRC within the global systems. And I had the pleasure of meeting Christelle when she chaired an event at the Africa Center most recently with another one of her panelists, Kazadi Mwamba here. So
We are among family, we are among leaders, we are among community, we're in a globalized world of leaders. So please come to the stage, Christelle. Thank you so much for our panel.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you can hear me. It's a pleasure to be chairing this dynamic discussion, an opportunity for you to get an insight into the Congolese and African diaspora observed here today. It's a pleasure for me to introduce some of my co-panelists that will be here. Before I continue, just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Jean Bosco, who's enlisted me to be involved in this project as a coordinator. But I also get the opportunity to chair this lovely, wonderful panel. And it's an honor for me because as a Congolese diasporan, I've lived here for 30 years and it's the case for many of these individuals I'll be taking the stage today. So it's an opportunity for you to see what the Congolese diaspora has to offer to the UK. So if I can kindly ask the following panelists to join me on the stage. Irene Mehta, if you can kindly join me, thank you. Kazadi Mwamba. Kasaimbo. And Jonas Asari. And Monsieur Edo. So I'll just do a short introduction on each and every one of these panelists. So first we have Irene Mehta. Irene Mehta is a compliance professional with over 15 years experience in global investment banking, specializing in regulatory risk and market integrity. Alongside her corporate career, she is a property investor and the founder of Tosela Congo, an agribusiness venture focused on building sustainable supply chains and supporting local economic development in the DRC. Next to her, we have Mr. Kazadi Mwamba. Kazadi Mwamba is a senior economic development professional with over a decade of experience delivering growth and regeneration across the UK local authorities. He's led major investment programs and public-private initiatives, and is also actively investing in real estate development in Kinshasa, which is the capital of the DRC, bridging diaspora capital with opportunities on the ground. Mr. Kasaimbo is an award-winning engineer and materials innovator, recognized internationally for his work in circular economy solutions within the mining sector. He's also the co-founder of UK Congolese Engineers Network and has led impactful STEM initiatives, supporting young people from underrepresented communities into engineering pathways. Next to him, we have Mr. Jovas Asare. Mr. Jovas Asare is a development finance expert with over 13 years working across Africa to unlock investment systems and infrastructure. He has led strategic work on the diaspora investment frameworks, including recent engagements in the DRC with organizations such as the Ford and the UK government. And finally, but not least, Mr. Edundeke is an energy, shipping and infrastructure professional with over a decade of experience delivering complex cross-border projects in emerging markets. Alongside his work in the industry, he has also founded ventures in renewable energy and the creative sector, promoted Congolese talent on the global stage. Thank you. So I will start with just a slight statement, and then we'll go into a series of questions, which I'll ask the panelists. So to begin with, it is worth reflecting on a fundamental paradox. The DRC stands as one of the most resource-rich countries in the world, home to vast reserves such as cobalt, copper, and other critical minerals that are essential in the global energy transition. And yet, this extraordinary wealth has not consistently translated into broad-based economy prosperity and sustainable development for its people, At the same time, the relationship between the UK and the DRC is evolving. Trade is growing, new frameworks are emerging, and there's an increasing recognition of DRC's strategic importance on the global stage. However, despite the full potential of this partnership, it remains largely untapped. So the question we must ask is not whether opportunity exists, but because it clearly does, but rather how the opportunity is activated, structured, and sustained. This is where the diaspora comes as essential to conversation. The diaspora communities occupy a uniquely powerful position. They understand local realities, cultural contexts, and on-the-ground challenges in the DRC, while also navigating international systems of finance, policy, and innovation here in the UK and beyond. They are not simply participants in the development, they are connectors of capital, of knowledge and institution and trust. In many cases, diaspora actors are already operating on the frontier of engagement, investing, building businesses, transferring skills, creating networks where formal systems may still be catching up. But the real question and the focus of today's panel is how we move forward beyond individual efforts towards something more coordinated and more scalable and impactful. How do we translate diaspora potential into structured public-private partnerships? How do we align private initiative with public priorities? And ultimately, how do we ensure that collaboration between the UK and the DRC delivers not only growth, but also meaningful, inclusive development? These are not simple questions, but they are necessary ones. And to help us explore, we are joined by a panel of leaders who bring diverse perspectives across investment, entrepreneurship, engineering, and international business, each actively contributing to the evolving ecosystem. We look forward to this enriching discussion. So I will start with my first question. Thank you very much. So my first question, actually, we will start with it's like an icebreaker, if I can say. So if I can ask each of my panelists, in one sentence, what is the biggest single opportunity right now for the Congolese diaspora to unlock a PPP that doesn't yet exist? And I will start with Mr. Edo.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for hosting this wonderful event. I think it's wonderful to have amazing people on the panel, but also all the panelists that spoke before. So all my credentials and respect for the organizers. In terms of your question, I think the single thing that we can do as the diaspora is take action. I think long time has been passed where we were basically bystanders, and I think we have been contributing quite a lot. I mean, if you look at the World Bank numbers, there is a clear contribution from the diaspora, providing capital for a number of social services. But I think now it's time to take action, to step up and actually participate in some of the infrastructure projects that are out there.
Thank you, Mr. Odo. Mr. Joves?
Thanks, Christel, and good afternoon, everyone. As Christel mentioned, my name is Joe Vasasari. I'm Managing Director of an organization called Uk-Drc, and we support the setup of infrastructure to allow for investment and finance to flow more productively across the continent. I must say I don't have the privilege of being a Congolese diaspora, but I am an African diaspora. So I'm speaking a little bit more from the perspective, the more thematic perspective. I don't have the contextual depth, but hopefully it's helpful. So the word that comes to mind in response to your question, Christel, is the momentum. I think what I've seen, especially over the last year or two, is the momentum is quite ripe. And what I mean by that is there's sort of these circles that have operated, the development finance space, diaspora investment, and they've operated in sort of isolation. What we're seeing is these circles starting to overlap. And just quickly, one example of it, I was in DRC for the first time a couple of weeks ago with Ford and the FCDO. They had a project that brought together the diaspora investors, the FCDO, who are the development partners, and the SME community. So these things, in my perspective, operated quite separately before. But through this program, they're seeing this overlap. And I think the momentum at the moment is quite high, and that gives opportunity for the diaspora to invest even more productively and scale for DRC.
The word that's come into my mind is knowledge transferable skill, which is very important for us at UK-SENA, Congolese Engineer Network Associations. We bridge the gap by organizing community outreach, and then back home, we train more than 300 people, taking them from informal educations to upscale them into technicians. I am Kasai Mbo, mining engineer and Secretary General of UK-SENA. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Christel. My name is Kazadi. I think that's a very interesting question that you pose us, and to answer that based on my experience and what I currently do in the UK and the DRC, and especially around the built environment, urban development, I would like to believe everyone here will agree with me in the sense of what we need in Congo is the prosperity and the regeneration of our country. And with that regeneration, it starts with housing. And we're all aware that the diaspora sends over £1 billion in remittance to the continent every year. Now, imagine if we pivot and structured that into a vehicle that supported development. Imagine what we can do in that. Imagine we created a constructed housing fund that we could approach our Congolese government and say, look, we've got X amount of money in this fund. We want to develop a structured development, housing, or whatever investment opportunity is. Where can you meet us? What can we do? What frameworks can we develop to get things started? And I think, for me, that's where the gap is, and that's where the opportunities lie.
I would say for me, from my experience, obviously I am in agriculture, I do farming, and can you hear me? Sorry, hello? It's okay. Yeah, so from my personal experience, I would say that there's power in numbers, and I think we tend to do things alone, and I think if we work as a team, as a syndicate, we can accomplish a lot more. We can scale, and we can produce on a bigger scale, basically. So for me, I think there's power in numbers, and we should work together and scale and build industries like factories, etc. Because we tend to import a lot in Congo. We import almost everything, like oil, we import butter, poultry even. So I think if we work as a team and we build industries, I think that would solve a lot of issues in Congo.
Thank you. So we're going to deep dive a little bit and discuss perhaps technoculture. So I would like to turn my question to Kasai. Kasai, how can a UK DRC PPP use technical innovation and culture systems together and not separate to attract a new kind of investor? If you can give us one concrete pilot.
For instance, what Irene mentioned about farming industry, in UK-SENA we organized, we have a pilot project at Shelltop Garden, the aquaponic. That is an urban farming project where we took 7 tons of organic waste, first transform that to high-grade composting, and then grow vegetables. More than half of a ton that has been given to food bank, churches, and charity. Now we took that knowledge transferable skills back to the DRC, where we designed a farm in Tele. We grow watermelon, sweet potatoes for local community to tackle food poverty. And then when it comes to Kazadi mentioned about, for instance, project of building houses, we design materials using sustainable materials, not cementitious, for carbon footprints, where we are providing affordable houses to our communities. We take the tailings from the mining, we transform that to building blocks. Those are the achievements in UK now. And we could not do that without the support of other engineers.
If I can ask you just to elaborate, because you said that you mentioned that you're in the production of food, obviously for localities in the DRC, but have you thought about perhaps scaling it up to the UK in terms of export opportunities?
Thank you very much. In terms of the export opportunities, as we are in the production first to feed the local community in the DRC, and then we realize the diaspora needs our food back homes. So UK Sena is trying to create a digital platform to know the need of the diaspora, what type of product that should be coming here in the UK with the local activities back home. We will be targeted to commercial farmers that will be feeding our diaspora here. But our focus mainly is to target the food crisis in the DRC. We see children growing without food, and they are going days without food. And through our garden and farming in Tele, we managed to have 300 tons of sweet potatoes and then feed 20 families.
It's very actionable. And I'm glad you're doing all these projects and obviously feeding the local communities. As we know, food security is still a major issue in the DRC, but something that comes to mind sometimes if we're speaking about you being a diasporan, not just being a Congolese, but also being a British citizen, if I can say, it'll be good to see if we can maybe bring some of those produce into market, you know, because Congolese has some of the most arable soil that we have, and we produce really good food, but it'll be good to see how the government can support the diaspora to get into exporting some of those produce that's been done. So that's a call to action to His Excellency, the Ambassador. Thank you, Excellency. If I can move on to the next segment, I wanted to speak about bankable projects. So this question is directed to Joves and Edo, if you can kind of give us your perspective on this. So what is the most concrete investment-ready PPP opportunities today that matches diaspora capital with the DRC or Africa, if you can say in the wider context, infrastructure needs? What's missing to close the first 5 million deal, for instance? And I would like to direct that to Edo first.
Okay, thank you for that question. I think one area where I see a lot of opportunities is really power generation. Without power, you cannot basically build industry. You cannot dive into manufacturing. You cannot sustain hospitals. You cannot sustain schools. So I think power generation is a very important and strategic sector where I think a lot of the diaspora can play a very positive role. And when we look right now, we got the Anser Solar Project, which is basically the entity that is focusing on developing rural power generation assets. And I think the diaspora has the ability to actually connect with some of the developers here in the UK that are already looking for new markets. And I think the key that the diaspora can play is act as a business developer originator, identifying these opportunities on the continent, especially in Congo, and then bring it to some of the developers here, and then work together in how they can actually deploy those assets. So I think the diaspora is ready, and I think power generation is quite important, and I think the developers here are ready as well, but they just need to engage with the diaspora in order to unlock these opportunities.
Thank you, and I think it's very important, being that the DRC is a very critical country when it comes to green energy. We'd like to see more Congolese being involved in these type of projects, and I know we have a lot of engineers as well, being that, you know, some of them are part of, for example, organizations like UK Sena. This is an opportunity for you to engage and be involved in these type of projects. I would like to also further that question to yourself, Joves. From your perspective, can you give us your points of view on that?
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. And so I agree with Mr. Eno. I don't yet have the contextual depth, so I can speak to generally energy, agriculture. These things make sense because you have a high growth population, which means that you have a high growth demand. So from an investment perspective, your demand is going to grow over the years, which means it makes sense. What I can speak to, I think, a bit more concretely is sort of where I think the diaspora investment fits in. And this is what's called blended finance, essentially. So here we're saying that with blended finance, you have different types of investors and funders that have varying agendas, and they can come together to progress a common vehicle. So if you look at, split them into two categories: concessional funders, who would be those that are looking to create some sort of impact. So this is your access to electricity, how many households you can connect, how many jobs you can create, etc. And then your private investors, who, yes, they may be interested in this, but there needs to be a financial return. So they're looking at the returns they can get on their investment. This is blended finance. You bring these together. What's unique about diaspora investment is that diaspora investment's been taking place for a long time already. It's not a new concept. But what we're saying that is within this structure of development finance, diaspora investors actually sit in quite a unique position because they want impact, but they also want financial returns. So they sit well in this blended finance space. So if you're talking about something like an energy PPP, then what pulls them in is both the financial returns, but also the impact as well. So what I wanted to do is just sort of contextualize where I think, or where I've seen as well, diaspora investment sort of playing a role in the development finance space. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Apparently I'm not being loud enough. I'm not too sure if everyone can hear me. Okay, I'll come a bit closer. No, I just wanted to say thank you for your contributions. And for me, stating the importance of having Congolese, sorry, I'm saying Congolese because I'm Congolese as well, so I will speak from that perspective. Having Congolese involved in these PPP structures, because we do have the local knowledge and we do have the networks on the ground. So for me, it's to encourage more companies that are here today to involve the diaspora, because they are the bridge often. We are hybrid. Congo is a francophone speaking country, so sometimes it's a challenge for authorities to be able to convey their message, to be able to support projects on the ground. But why not include the diaspora who have lived experience, have been educated here in the UK and other countries within Europe, but also have that local experience, have the local language. So it's also encouraging an opportunity for you to engage Congolese, just to add that. If you're doing projects in Congo or businesses in Congo or French-speaking countries.
Christelle, can I just add to that? Sorry. Sure. I just wanted to add sort of a practical point of view as well. Mm-hmm. So with projects as well, and this blended finance, which I spoke about, leverage is really important too. And what we're saying there is these different investors, these different funders have different risk appetite. So if you're practically doing a project, sometimes diaspora investment can be an early investor, which helps to leverage that journey.
Okay, thank you for adding more perspective on that. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I completely concur that. And I think sometimes we are requesting investors to come into our countries and build infrastructure, right? And I think some of these investors are also asking, what are you putting in, right? And I think the diaspora has a unique opportunity to really leverage that area. And I think there is a bit more of hesitancy in that regard. But I think what we need to do is really create a number of platforms where some of these opportunities are visible, right? And then you have some formal entity behind it, backing it, and providing a space where people know that, if they do invest, it is guaranteed and it will have that impact that they're looking for.
Thank you. And in that light, I'm speaking of having good habits. I would like to enter the next segment, which is emphasis on good governance, which we understand as well, operating in countries on the continent can be a complex environment. So this question is very important, and it's directed to Kazadi and Irene. State 2 UK public-private governance habits that the DRC and other African countries, in your opinion, how can they adopt this to make the diaspora investments safer and faster? And can you give one thing not to copy from the UK or the DRC? And if you can go first, Kez.
Yeah, thank you for that. So once again, I'm going to draw to my experience in terms of working with the local authorities in various ways we structure development and the built environment in the UK. One framework and habit that I think we could potentially learn from, not copy, but learn from, is a framework that's called local development orders. So what that particularly means is that if a major investor wants to kind of invest in the built environment in terms of building either a commercial or residential property, the government has set a pre-approved process that skips the UK planning process. So in that sense that it gives developers, investors the reassurance that before even spending money in a specific project, that the key elements of the project or the key governance of that project are sorted. They don't have to go through a prolonged, expensive planning process. So they know that we've got the master plan, we've got the idea, both parties are in agreement. Once the government says yes, I don't have to worry about time frame or additional expenses going through the pre-planning application phase. Second habit is something that I mentioned earlier on during this event, is about developing special purpose vehicles that sits outside political context. And I think as an investor myself in the DRC, and as we're all aware of the various political environment that we're in, something that will give me confidence is knowing that whatever agreements that I have with key partners and government officials, those agreements would not change depending on the makeup of the local or national governments. That will give me the confidence to know that if I invest X amount of money for X period of time, regardless of the environment, the political environment, my investment is secure. And in regards to what not to copy, once again, through my experience, the UK planning process, I'm not sure how many of you here have actually gone through the UK planning process. It's expensive, lethargic, and it's a headache to go through, especially if you've got huge developments in the pipeline.
Okay, Irene?
I would say from my experience, I would say it would be really useful to have like an association where you have certified skilled professionals, because that's an area that I've really struggled with in my business. So a bit like here where you have the Law Society, if you're looking for a solicitor that's certified and somebody you can trust, you go on the Law Society directory. So if we had something like that for the Congo as well, for Congo, sorry, not the Congo, for Congo as well, that would be awesome, because we struggled with that a lot, finding a plumber that is reliable, electricians, all that kind of stuff. So if you can just have a centralized, like a directory where you have certified individuals, that would be super, really helpful. And then another thing that I found really difficult as well was when we was registering our company back home. The process was really long. It took all of 8 months to complete the registration of our company. So I think we need to refine the processes. It shouldn't be, registering a company should not take months and months. It's admin. It shouldn't take that long. So I think those are some of the things, because over here, I think you can register a company within minutes online, and you'll be, you're certified, you're registered like sort of instantly. But for us, it took months, and I would have to sort of piggyback off the back of your answer. Sometimes, although there's value in regulation. Of course, we have to have regulations in place, and that's one thing we do value about the UK, but sometimes things can be overly regulated, and that there's unnecessary layers and processes that just kind of slow down things that you want to get done, I'd say.
Yes, Your Excellency.
excuse me, I have to go for a meeting with Mr. Kinwani Masamba, but I could not go without saying some words. So excuse me for abusing of the privilege of my age. No, let me first thank the panelists for the diversity of their experience and expertise. I am quite impressed by their commitment for doing something for DRC. I don't have a question. I have 2 comments and a recommendation. My first comment has to do with what Mrs. Mehta said about the Association of Congolese Professionals. There is actually an Association of Congolese Professionals, which was created 2 years ago. I was there at the launch. It is presided by Mr. Cedric Longange, and the vice president is Maître Nancy Kitambala. It is a very vibrant association. So please join it.
I will, absolutely. Thank you.
Now, my second comment is to say that for the last 2 days, there is an area of possible or potential investment which I have not heard at all. This is the area called orange economy. It is the area of cultural and creative industry. I have not heard that word here. And yet, they also contribute to development, so they deserve investment. I am even more encouraged to say that in the diaspora here, we have a very vibrant culture with a lot of talented people. Just to give you a few examples, a few of the best Congolese musicians, they are here in the UK. Burkina Faso, Awilo Longomba, Juna Mumbafu, Claudia Bakisa, and they are here. So they are also part of the diaspora, so we should not neglect them. This is music, but there is also the cuisine, the Congolese gastronomy. We have 3 or 4 restaurants here who could also help in the promotion of our food. You can go to New York today or to Washington, there is not a single Congolese restaurant, but there are hundreds of Senegalese restaurants. And here, at least we have 3 or 4 Congolese restaurants, and they are part of the diaspora. Let me also mention in the area of cuisine, Mrs. Mayaka Pongo, who developed a whole factory for producing shikwang. And she's thinking of doing it in DRC. This is also part of the green economy. And that's not all. I can also mention 2 sisters I know. Where is the second sister? I call them twins, although they are not twins. Christelle and Madeleine. They are involved in producing head wraps, and they do many of the things in the culture. They are also part of the diaspora. Did I forget something? Yes. In fashion, there is a lady called Idikai. So she's very much involved in fashion, etc. I could go to couture and mention the Nkiere. So, bottom line, orange economy, cultural and creative industry, they are also part of sectors deserving investment, especially that there are many diaspora members who are involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just following on to our next question. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. So this question is regarding capital barrier, and it's directed to Irene, Kazadi, and Jovas. Perhaps Jovas, you can go first, and then Kazadi and Irene. What is the single biggest structural barrier for diaspora professionals pooling 100 to 500K into a diaspora-based PPP. This could be in housing, it could be in agribusiness or logistics. Who acts first in this instance? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christel. So I think,
Just put the mic closer.
can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the who acts first is context specific. It'll be hard for me to say this stakeholder acts first. But I think what the barrier that we see, especially from the diaspora perspective, is that there's high levels of information asymmetry. So because, as mentioned before, the diaspora would have a high appetite to see impact and also to receive some sort of financial returns, without there being the necessary infrastructure, a diaspora may go and invest without necessarily all of the information they need to be able to make informed decisions for that to be successful. And that's where I see sort of the single most highest barrier from what we're seeing. But I think right now there's also good opportunity, because the momentum that I mentioned at the beginning is actually these different stakeholders are coming together and at least having conversation pointing towards action, which means there's an opportunity to start nudging infrastructure and helping diaspora to overcome information asymmetries, go to market and sort of make more informed decisions, reap some sort of success, and that paves the way for others. The last thing I'll mention is there isn't any shortage of capital. The issue is not we don't have enough funds. There's a vast amount of funds. The problem we have is the absorbing the funds to make it productive, and that's where there's a lack of infrastructure. With infrastructure, the funds flow in a way that is productive. Without infrastructure, it's scattered, it's dispersed. You may have success, but it's subjective and it's difficult to scale.
Thank you, Kazadi.
Yeah, just to pick up on your point there, and I think I have to agree with that in a sense of our biggest barrier is definitely not capital, in the sense of, there's a huge amongst of Congolese diaspora with the capital and willingness to invest. But what I see, or what I've seen and experienced, is a trusted vehicle that we could potentially pool our money into. In that sense of, if you was a Congolese diaspora and you wanted to invest back home, you've got 3 options. The first one is trust family members back home, and with that, you lose control of your investment. You don't know what happens there. The second one is you going down to Congo yourself and try to figure out the complexity of the environment there, which takes time and is expensive. And the third one is just wait. And that's what majority of the Congolese diaspora are doing, is wait. And I think platforms such as this, I think, is encouraging that we're putting together a consortium of expert knowledge, experienced people, where we have the opportunity to build vehicles that we can all trust on, rely on, and build the infrastructure to give us confidence to invest back home.
And Irene?
Yeah, I think I would just have to kind of piggyback off the back of that as well, because I think the finances are there. I think I'd have to piggyback off the back of that again, because I think finances are there. Just for example, when my sister-in-law, who is a shareholder in the company, she's in the audience. So we went to Congo last year, and we had a YouTuber come and interview. She's the face, so they interviewed her, and the video kind of went viral. And off the back of that, I had so many Congolese expats phoning me from all over the world, really reaching out, and they want to invest, but they don't have anybody on the ground that they can trust. So I think it's building those networks or structures where people feel like their investments will be safe, and also that they're investing with like-minded people, and their money will be safe, basically, and people are going to follow through with what the plan was for whatever business it is you wanted to kind of invest in the first place. I think it's a trust issue for sure. Yeah. That's a major thing.
Thank you. Now, give you opportunity.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something there. I think, the DRC is not different from any other emerging market. I think the issues that you will face in any emerging frontier market, you will face it in the DRC as well. And I think what is unique about the DRC is the momentum that was just mentioned, right? You want to go into a country where there are barriers, where there are challenges, where there are problems, because that's where you can solve those problems and basically generate a good, healthy return compared to when you go and invest, let's say, in Switzerland or in Norway, right? It's already a very efficient market there, so they don't need your capital, right? I think the DRC is in a very, very unique opportunity here. And I think what we're lacking is really people just taking action, right? A lot of us have studied here, right? We have invested in, quite large, complex projects in other countries. The DRC is quite low. You're starting from a very low base. And I just want to encourage people to kind of look beyond the headlines, right? As a Congolese, you should know that there is more happening there and there is a place for you to actually deploy your capital, your resources, and your energy. I just think that message needs to be, highlighted a bit more than what we have been seeing, in the headlines.
Thank you. And Kazad?
Yeah, just to touch on that, risk appetite. I think I've got colleagues, peers from various countries and various continents. The way they review risk in regards to when they're investing back home is completely different with our African counterparts. And I think there's risk everywhere when you're investing. Like we invest there, we buy houses here, we buy various other things there, and sometimes it doesn't work and we just shrug it off. But when it comes to investing back home, we've got this mental barrier, mental block of the risk associated with investing back home. I think there's that element of increasing our risk appetite, and like Edo mentioned, the returns are high because of the environment that we're in. So especially now in a global market, if you want to see great returns on your investment, DRC is definitely one of the places that you could go to.
Okay, thank you for that. Just for the sake of time, we did want to maybe ask, we did have one more panel question, but I believe we've gone over time. But I do want to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions to members of these panels. Maybe if we can ask, anyone has one or two questions that they may ask. Thank you.
So, Kenzie, my name is Kenzie. I'm a recent graduate from the London School of Economics. And I just have a general question for anyone in the panel. My question is, can the diaspora help with finding investment funds to target sectors such as industrial freshness, for instance, niche products like berries and citrus fruits, in order to leapfrog the sort of agribusiness value chain and create back and forth linkages?
Yeah, I could maybe, I don't know if I'll answer the question directly, but give a few thoughts that hopefully helps. So one thing that we've seen is when it comes to diaspora investment, we're not just talking about the investment of capital, but you can also invest through technical assistance. You could pave the way for other investors as well. And we've seen that happen in practice. So where the program that I was with in the DRC a few weeks ago, what happened is we had diaspora mentors whose seniors in the UK from DRC paired with SMEs, etc., and they worked together. And what started happening is you're seeing relationships building, and you have that patriotic buy-in to it, but you also have a network outside of DRC, and that starts to allow for other investors that are less familiar with DRC to be able to have an adjustment in their perceived risk and then say, okay, let's have a conversation. It starts to pave the way. The other thing, especially with the sort of value add and agriculture ventures, the other thing that we see is trade. So the diaspora can be great vehicles for helping trade to be facilitated as well. So what I mean by this is sometimes, so we do quite a bit of work in Ghana, for instance, and one thing that is a bit of an issue there, and I think it could be the case in some settings in DRC, is that companies would operate well locally, create value-add products, etc., but the barrier they face is access to market. When they're working with diaspora investors, those diaspora investors aren't just bringing cash, but they're bringing know-how and bridges to be able to access markets. So that goes beyond just the funding and investment, but they're helping to increase a trading revenue, and that helps the business to stand on a bit stronger of a foundation.
Maybe I could. There are already a number of platforms. I think what platform you were talking about was the Bridge platform, which basically is funded by the UK government, and there are a number of SMEs from the UK that are also participating there and offering the diaspora to add their expertise in there. So if you have an idea and you think within the niche market area of produce or agriculture that there is a space for you to come and to contribute, I think that platform can be a way for you to gain access and engage with some of the potential companies that would benefit from your expertise.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we have time for one more question. We have time for one more question. If anyone has. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Genevieve Moana. I'm a lecturer, a fashion business lecturer at the London College of Fashion. I attended a panel in Paris with prominent artists from the Congo. And my question will be regards to the mindset of the diaspora going back and doing business. Back home, they talked about encountering resistance and criticism and the hero syndrome, coming from the diaspora to Congo. What has been your experience, and what would be your advice to the diaspora to help kind of build trust and not have that hero or fall into that hero syndrome? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mind answering this one. So for me, I had to unlearn a lot of things when I started investing back home in Congo. And I think they are right in regards to a number of us. We come from Europe, various university studies, and we automatically believe we can solve the issues and solutions of our counterparts, our people in the DRC. And the number of things that I had to unlearn was that how I've done or conducted business in Europe is completely different to how business is conducted in the DRC. And I think you have to have a bit of empathy and being honest with yourself in terms of you're going into a new landscape, a new niche, new cultures, etc. Try to adapt, try to learn, and figure out exactly how business is conducted there, and adapt accordingly. So, from my experience, there's definitely a lot of unlearning needed to be done so that you could adapt to the landscape and the culture of the new environment that you're trying to do business in.
Okay, thank you. Some very good questions and great feedback. And for me, I would just like to give some historical context, just so you know. The DRC has obviously been plagued by, well, it's probably not the best word to use, but has been affected by ongoing conflicts in the east. But just to mention that the DRC is over 2.35 million hectares, and the conflict in itself is happening in 5,000 hectares. So if there's conflict here in the UK, the conflict is happening, if we are in the UK, the conflict is happening safely in Portugal. And it's very important to bring that to your attention, because we don't want the country brand to be, that Congo, there's war everywhere. No, there's so much opportunity. There's still a lot of arable land, and there's even loads of spaces are not even fit to be called cities because they are, lacking in infrastructure or don't have the connectivity. But also there's a lot of potential for you to buy in to the country. And I think what we wanted to do today, what I wanted to do was not just engage in our respected fields, but also to demystify what Congo looks like. I mean, we're all Congolese, we all come from different backgrounds. And for many of us, having lived here for 30 years, we are away from home, and many of us have not been home for so long. So I think Congo's history is very unique compared to other African countries, and what we want to do is having platforms like this will hopefully give you more confidence in knowing the Congolese story and knowing and us representing our own story and owning our story so that we can give you more confidence. But as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities. We have diasporans being represented from different backgrounds and already investing in the country. And even us being, British citizens, we also have, we look at the risk as well, but we also look at the opportunities, why not invest in not just Congo, but also other African countries, as opposed to other countries, traditional countries that you'd perhaps look for. So another point to also mention that the DRC is obviously outside of the Commonwealth, so being a Francophone country also makes it quite difficult, but we have obviously diasporans here that speak English. We can give local perspective, local context that would help to facilitate some of those discussions and also help to demystify some of the sort of taboos that you have around the DRC. But in terms of country, if I even look at the periodic table, Congo, 60% of the periodic table is in the DRC. Outside of, critical minerals, there's opportunities for you to invest in different sectors. And as the Excellency said here, there is also, if you look at the creative industries, that's also, an area whereby it needs investment, and there are opportunities there. If you are, if you don't want to kind of deal with the local politics that's happening on the ground. But what we would like from the UK government and UK businesses, if you do have the expertise and you do have the experience, it'll be good to collaborate and participate. And it's going to take more than just individuals to come together and build structures that are conducive or for a market that can grow, but the opportunity's there. On that note, I would like to thank every one of you for participating today. And if you have any questions, by all means, please feel free to approach us throughout the rest of the conference. Thank you so much. And panelists, if we can have a follow, just take a quick photo. Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Christelle, and your amazing panel. We really appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, everyone still present, we do have one last section of this event, if you wouldn't mind. At the moment, we have a discussion. So now we are going to allow, please, thank you, gentlemen.
Please have the room back.
Thank you. So now we'll leave time for people to have interventions, reflections, thoughts. Some of you in the room are investors. Some of you in the room are diasporic community members. Some of you in the room are Congolese representatives. Some of you may be scholars. Some of you may be coming from many different backgrounds, whether or not you have personal connections to the DRC. We're leaving the room for you to make a short intervention. And for those of you who are speakers, if you do want to add something, we're also welcome speakers to add something. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment, a reflection, give some thoughts about what you've heard today, what you've learned, what you haven't learned, gaps? Trésor, one of our speakers and our chair people, thank you so much.
Thank you, Madeleine. Once again, I'm Trésor Chauveau. I'm into mining. I wanted to add something on the diaspora panel that I think hasn't been touched, is the question of resilience. In Africa, you have to be resilient. If you are going into that country, especially as a young diaspora member trying to do a project or to invest, do not expect to have the same commodities as in the UK or France. And you have to be prepared to face hurdles and even battles. But at the end, it's always successful if you carry on. And I'm going to give a practical example. I myself, I spend half of my time here. I'm based here. And between here and Africa, I was educated here. I went to university here. When I graduated, I've started going into Africa just 1 year after uni with companies. But I had a business model that I've developed in the mining, and I kept the resilience and I kept refining this business model. And today, after many years, with ups and downs, it actually worked. I've signed recently with one of the biggest junior Australian company. I just signed a joint venture. And the founder of that company is a former banker. And so just to say, to come back to, there are requirements here and there are requirements in Africa. And based on that experience, on that model, on that proof of concept, this can be replicated in many other countries. So the resilience is key. Once you prove that your business model works, then doors will open. That was just my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Same table, another contribution, and then we'll go to the back table. Yes? Same contribution, same table. Oops, missed it.
Lady and then
oh, yes, the lady. Yes, yes, of course.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Madeleine Laney. I wanted to speak on, I have an opportunity actually at hand for fellow Congolese people. I work with my sister Christelle. We have maybe 3 businesses, so I'm going to speak on one. We have the Congolese and Fabulous Foundation, which we have built, and that focuses on human flourishing, cultural and heritage preservation, as well as environment and climate sustainability. For today, I wanted to bring an opportunity to fellow Congolese people. We work closely with Her Excellency Chantal Moulap, who is a special advisor to the President in things concerning youth, gender, and violence against women. What we have at the moment been assigned with is to build 50 think tanks across 50 nations that will be led by youth in the diaspora between the ages of 18 and 44. And we are looking for leaders who are going to be heading those think tanks. The one in the UK will be headed by myself and Christelle, and we will be recruiting members for those who want to join the one in the UK. So if you know any Congolese people that are qualified, have good leadership in any sector or field or discipline in terms of studies, I would love for you to approach me and nominate them, which will really help our search. What we really want is to connect the diaspora globally, because the diaspora is an asset for the development of the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have heard so many good points that have been raised here, so I will not reiterate what has been said, but Congo is here to participate. In the UK, we are a minority among minorities, but I hope what you were able to witness is our active willingness and steadfastness in taking things forward for the development of the country. So thank you so much for putting this platform. It is much necessary, and I hope that we can organize ourselves even better as we progress in the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The gentleman at the table and then the lady afterwards at the same table. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Such a great event today. Just really wanted to thank those that are organizing it today. So my name is Ruben Alendo. I am an educator, so a teacher of business. And today was just so insightful in relation to the subjects and the topics and the themes of today. But what I was really glad is that education was mentioned, because the power of education can open doors. And even the CEO of Vodacom, he said how without education, you also lose generations. And the fact that education was mentioned was such a surprise, because without education, there's no development. We need to upskill young people, the ones that are currently living in the UK, but also the ones that are living in the DRC, to become skillful. This requires to go to school, get an education. But also, education is not just going to school anymore. People are learning online. They're finding different ways of getting an education. Even what we're doing right now is getting an education. I even have my notes with me for like such a student. But I'm just glad that education was mentioned, because that is the future and that is the foundation. And to actually forget about it, we will be doing a disservice to the nation and to the world. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So to pick up on your point, so thank you very much, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I wanted to bring this up earlier. Some people forget that a lot of subjects that we study, both in primary, secondary school, university, and then in our daily lives when we read the news, they're interconnected. So for example, when we think of economics, who in the room has taken an economics course at any level? Okay, so one of the things we learn about economics, because I taught economics for years and I ran the program at Anglia-Ruskin. I had about 1,500 students per year. That was my program. I had a team of 16 lecturers, so this is something I've done from the ground up. We know that long-term economic growth anywhere, whether it's here, whether it's in the Democratic Republic of Congo, depends on physical capital, human capital, so infrastructure development, financing, and research and development. So if you have physical capital but you don't have human capital, it means you have nice bridges and nice buildings, but nobody knows how to do anything. If you have human capital and no infrastructure, that's fantastic. Your people are brilliant. You don't have roads, you don't have airports, you don't have electricity networks, etc. If you're missing research and development, you can't move into the future. You are stuck. So countries, for example, China, we see China on the global scale as a huge leader in so many fields, which is admirable, but also astounding, but also sometimes concerning. How do they do it? Since the 1940s, the average Chinese education for children, both boys and girls, has gone up exponentially. And as China invested in education for girls and boys, their economy went up, right? You invest in the people create the infrastructure, the people create the research and development. Everywhere children are smart. Who's a parent? In this room, right. Children are smart. All children are smart. All young people are smart. So the point that the gentleman made was, it's not just education is nice, it is essential. You cannot have an economy if you do not invest in people. Congolese people are as smart, if not smarter, than anyone else. And that's the same with every country and every economy. Even if it's a country recovering from warfare, it doesn't matter. People have the same potential. So you've made a very good point, and all of us need to think in that way, because the next Einstein, the next Marie Curie could be from Kinshasa, could be from North Kivu. Okay, so we just need to be there for that. The lady in the back, please.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for organizing this. My name is Nancy Katambala, the lady that was being referred to by the ambassador. I'm a solicitor in the United Kingdom, a solicitor advocate. I own my own firm in Angel. I also work with UK Senasal, which is a group of engineers who have opened a company in the DRC trying to do many things when it comes to engineering. And one of our directors was called at the front earlier, Mr. Kasai, who was a panel member. In light of that, I wanted to highlight something which the gentleman there was asking. He asked a question in relation to finding sponsors in the DRC. The mistake that many make is that we have an idea, we don't ourselves invest in it, and we think that an investor will invest. In order for an investor to invest, they need to be sure that there is generating something. So we need to put our own money into it most of the time usually, start something, showing that there are profits, and thereafter somebody will come and invest in it. Investors are business people. What they want to see is that they will be able to make money. So the starting point is showing that we will be making money. And in relation to the organization that the ambassador has referred to, so about 2-3 years ago, we started a organization called the Congolese Circle of Professionals. Being a solicitor, I've noted that when I needed professionals in the United Kingdom, it was difficult for me to find one, so perhaps I needed a psychiatrist to write a report for me, but it was difficult to find one within the Congolese, in the United Kingdom, the Congolese community in the UK. That's simply because we didn't know where we were, and the professionals keep themselves to themselves. So the idea was to have some kind of directory where we'll have all the professionals together to be able to signpost work to each other, to create an economy. If you know that in countries like in France, in Belgium, where there are loads of Congolese, is most likely to see a Congolese economy, which is a bit less in the United Kingdom. We tend to, when money comes in within our community, it doesn't turn more than twice and go straight out. Whereas in communities like the Jewish community, where they have that signposting, it goes around about 30 times before it goes out. So I thought it was very important for us to create a Congolese economy. So we do signpost work to each other, and we're trying to bring that in the Congo as well. We created the Congolese Connect group, where we're trying to get youngsters to also have role models and try to see whether we can also create a bridge for professionals diaspora between here in the UK and the Congo, and that we call it Congo Connect. We had an event last year in Birmingham, and we also had in the DRC. And one of the issue again is finding sponsors. So we had to invest ourselves. So we're trying to make it bigger in order to help the youngsters and also to help perhaps companies who are in the UK who want to invest in the DRC. The DRC is a virgin country. There's so much to be done. Every sector needs something, but it's just a matter of funds, which we all need to try perhaps start ourselves, and then maybe somebody else will be able to invest with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have two ladies here in the back.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Madeleine Fumani. I am an engineer, battery researcher here in the UK. I'm actually in my final year of my PhD at King's College London, where I look at battery recycling and the impact of net zero policies on the actual sector. I think my takeaway from this event, which has been so nicely put together by Mr. Chauvu and Madame Nancy over there, the two things are the resilience of the diaspora, because as I'm part of the UK Senate as well, and what you see at the beginning is finding that investor that will believe in your idea when it's just a proof of concept. Sometimes you don't have the capex to start the idea. Sometimes even to start the ecological city that they started in Sele, it had to be self-funded first before the government can believe in the vision and see the two show homes being put together and then want to get behind it. And that's been one of the hardest things. So usually you don't always have the capex to start. You just need that one person that will believe in the idea. And you're right, we have to be self-funded sometimes to start. And the next one I wanted to also talk about is the education. What's really in my heart is to empower Congolese women to consider a career in STEM, especially in battery. We've got the minerals, but we don't have the skills, we don't have the knowledge. How do we bridge the gap between people like us who have learned here, understand the trade, the policies, and then how do we then bring it back and try to upskill the next generation that will take over and be the next teachers, the next professors in material science, in batteries. So yeah, education and resilience, I think that's quite important. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And best wishes for your PhD. It sounds extremely important, especially battery recycling, because we're not manufacturing batteries with recycling capability, which means we're wasting the minerals, which means we're damaging the environment needlessly. We have two more ladies' comments, please, and then we're going to close.
I've been told that we have 6 minutes,
Yes.
including the closing time, so make your remarks, comments, and reflections as brief as you can.
Thank you. My name is Vanessa Mulangala. Thank you for the event. I think it's important to talk about also diasporan success stories. Me and my mother started a mining and agricultural company in the Kasai region. And it's one of the only, if not the only, at least in the region, majority female-owned agriculture and mining company. We're working with Japanese investors who are also women. So that was very important to mention. And when we talk about the difficulties that we find there, it's important to understand the culture. We worked with Japanese. It's a difficult culture to work with. So the difficulties everywhere, you just have to learn about the people. Also with my colleague here, we work with Ford. One of the panelists was working with us as well. And one of the ladies I was working with is a lady that produces mushroom, and she has an urban agricultural production. And she's Congolese educated, 7 years that she opened her company. It's very successful. So I think it's very important also to say that when we're talking about this hero syndrome that we may feel as people from the diaspora, it's important to trust the people on the ground because they know more about the local realities, which we unfortunately sometimes are detached from. So thank you very much. And yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Very, very pertinent commentary. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matuki and I own a farm in Congo. And speaking of the challenges and self-funding yourself as a business, as the lady said before, is you can go into a village and you are self-funding the education aspect of that village. We own a farm in Maluku and we have invested towards the education system in that area in order for the parents who are helping us on the farm to have education access. And it's also the conversation we've had of upscaling people. I think as part of the government is to help us in a way to fund towards upscaling people in order for them to advance us as people who own farms. And mentioning all of these projects is good for our country to see how us young diasporas are going back to Congo and are investing and want to see changes. But we are also doing beyond more than just owning a business in Congo. We are supporting education. We are supporting electricity, water system, and finding ways to come together in order for us to have somewhat of security so then people don't get jealous of your business because you're owning it in an area that's rural and there's no one else there, and you're coming in and you're eating from the pie that they want to eat from, and you having to find a balance in order to maintain your business there. So this has been a great evening, great day to have, and also understanding how we can advance as the next generation coming in owning business in Congo. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have one last comment here from the lady. One last comment, quickly, please.
Good afternoon. It's been a pleasure to be here with you all.
Just by way of introduction, my name is Nadine Billa. I'm the director of Billa Legal Services Limited. As my friend Nancy, who's a solicitor as well, has said, I'm also a member of COSIPRO, the Circle of Congolese Professionals in the UK. I think I'm glad that my friend on the side have mentioned, just to mention as well in terms of diaspora, trusting and reaching out in the DRC, just to mention I've been appointed as Managing Director of a mining subcontracting company. So it's just to encourage others as well who are looking into investing in the DRC, looking into working in the DRC. The DRC is open. And also education. I could never leave this place without mentioning about education. I'm an educator. I'm also the CEO of Billa Law Academy, which is an academy that provides opportunity work experience for young people, aspiring lawyers, so that they can get into the legal field. So yeah, I'm open to speak to anyone, but thank you for mentioning what you're doing as well, and thank you because it gave me that courage to also mention I am in the mining sector as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that concludes our discussion sector, except I'm going to contribute something here. In the framework of my PhD research, which is mostly social sciences, so we're talking about politics, economics, cultural anthropology, history, sociology, for example, I have been organizing a forum called the African Dialogues 1.0. Last year it was hosted at SOAS with the University of Exeter, UCL, the University of Amsterdam, Uk-Drc University, and partially funded by the Decolonial Futures Research Priority Area of the University of Amsterdam. This year, we hope to be hosting it again. It will be in October during the UK's Black History Month. So to balance out the discussion about Black history, Black British history, we're going to talk about African history. We're talking about African social sciences as something at times distinct from what we know of as Black history. So African civilization, and if any of you are in the humanities fields, we've also had people talking about environmental law, for example. If any of you are in the social sciences field, in the humanities fields, whether you're practitioners in the field or whether you're academics, scholars, educators, please do get in contact with me. We're looking to create our panels. We don't know if it's going to be 1 day or 2 days. Last year we had 3 days in different sites in the UK. So please get in touch with me if you'd like to participate in African Dialogues, which is a counterbalance to Black Dialogues initiatives and Black History Month, to open up our understanding of Blackness and African identity, African history, arts, and different civilizations. So we didn't have a Congolese representative last year, but we would like to have you this year, so please get in touch with me. I would like to thank everyone for your comments, your questions, your speaking, your engagement, your curiosity, your questions, your frustrations. All of it's valuable. If you're coming away with this with any difficulties, I love to say in my classroom, if anything here got to you and maybe is irritating you, that's good. It means that you have something else to research. It means there's questions you want to answer. It means you want to improve something. So don't think that anything that makes you slightly uncomfortable or leaving you with questions is bad. That's positive. You want to learn more, you're hungry, you're curious. Take that and fuel it into something good. So I'd like to welcome Jean Bosco, who created this wonderful event and has organized it, to give our closing address. Thank you so much.
So it's not really a closing address, it's just some comments and some thanks as well. So here we are at the end of the day. It's been a marathon today since, some other people came here around 8:30 and staying till this time, it needs to be something very important. So I would like to thank you all for coming, and there are many people here who will be coming from overseas and as well from Birmingham, Manchester, all over the United Kingdom to take part to this. So really big thanks. And big thanks as well to the team who has worked together with me, Madeline, Jacqueline, and Letitia, and Christelle, and as well my family who has been here to support for this activity. So the next step is the trip in Congo in June. Are you coming with us? Yes. I just want to see your hand if you're coming with us. Yeah, that's really good. Can we clap for ourselves? So? So that's the next trip. So we're not going just to make, to say things or to do stories. We're going for concrete deals and business. And FPI is going to help us. The CEO assistant is there, is going to give a good report, I believe. Yeah, very good. And Vodacom, and as well the Federation of Enterprise of Congo, and the President's Office as well. So we need you on board. So in October, we're going to have the Uk-Drc Economic Forum. But before we have the forum, the ambassador is supposed to say it because he's the ambassador, but you have to rush. So the reason why I have to say so. We're going to have the Economic Forum. Maybe it's going to be here. Maybe it's going to be in a really large room. So prepare yourself for the Economic Forum and prepare yourself as well for the mission in the DRC. Thank you very much. And then when we finish, there is a bar here. Don't rush to go. You can mingle. You can have some networking. That will be really good. And thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your evening. Merci à tout le monde. How would you say goodbye in Congolese? In Lingala. How do you say goodbye in Lingala? Huh? Mbokine malao. Okende malao.